Hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Gabriela Fundora versus Marilyn Badillo fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into this. So of course this is for the undisputed flyweight titles, of course that being WBA, WBC, WBO and IBF titles. Last time out, Gabriela Fundora made history from what I believe to become the youngest undisputed female, or at least, in the flyweight division, undisputed female world champion. I don't know exactly if it was of all time, I'm not necessarily sure, but I believe she's only 23 years of age, and to become undisputed champion is a sensational feat. Obviously, she had her IBF belt in which she picked up a couple fights prior to the last one, and then she went on to fight Alanese. Alanese was coming off an excellent fight versus Esparza, where she got her own back in the rematch, and Gabriela looked really good. I mean, I think that was probably a coming of age type of performance, and having that at this point in your career already, them type of just excellent performances showcases that she is a real talent and that she is really somebody who's going to be tough to beat. And I believe she won Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year, and full right to her. She's now got this deserved slot headlining a Golden Boy event. And to be honest, when you think about Golden Boy events, there's not really, first of all, that many female fighters even normally involved in them. You normally have your Castovallés and your Esparzas, but other than that, there isn't really too many, if I can think of the top of my head, women's fighters who's involved. Now we've got somebody in Fundora who is, undisputed champion. She's somebody who is going to be able to main event and is going to be able to sell, and seemingly does have a draw because she is a unique talent. Obviously, everybody knows about her height and her reach and her, you know, skills in that asset, similar to her brother, and the people love to compare her to her brother. But I think arguably she could be more tactically gifted than that of her brother. I think she utilizes her shots very well and is able to pick her shots well. But I also think in that last performance, she was able to sit down on her shots better than what I have seen from her before. In prior fights, there has been times in which there's been a few messy moments when she's tried to become a bit more aggressive, and I've just not really been too sure if she was able to fight against a top fighter, how she would be able to react. And I feel like an Alanese test, I think I thought that she was going to lose, to be honest, but I knew that it was going to be a tough test for her because Alanese will throw a lot and will willingly stand toe to toe. And you don't really want to do that, but you also want to be able to assert your dominance, to be able to not just to be able to kind of back her off a little bit. And she definitely did that. And she did get caught at times. There was times in which Alanese would go nicely to the body and then back up to the head, and then she'll get caught. The problem with her always having to throw downwards is the fact that she is often leaving her hands quite low because she's just utilizing, like I say, throwing downwards, not really worrying too much about opponents being able to actually get to her and be able to reach her. Unlike her brother, who is so tall, there has been times where fighters have actually really struggled to be able to reach his head. It's not really the case with Fundora. She's not quite that much taller than opponents, even though it is still quite a big feat. So she has been caught a few times. Like I say, she can get baited in with feints, or like I say, if somebody goes to the body, returns up to the head, they can catch her. But it was still, like I say, a coming of age type performance. She showcased her strength and she showcased that she can be an entertaining female fighter, which is something in which, of course, we're always calling out for, somebody who can get stoppages and can showcase power. And then straight down the pipe shots really did showcase power. She is now, of course, in with a top contender in Marilyn Badillo, and so it's going to be tough for her. Badillo is somebody who, obviously a Mexican, but doesn't really fight like a Mexican fighter. She is a back foot type of fighter, and she is somebody who is going to be trying to slip shots, use her movement, kind of maneuver you around, and it's going to be interesting to see if she can do that to somebody like a Fundora. She hasn't fought anywhere near the kind of level of opposition in which Fundora has fought, and like I say, she normally tries to sit on the back foot and use her reaction. She's got good head movement. Her defense isn't that bad. She will drop her hands quite often, and so she can get caught there. And perhaps she'll go and put her chin up in the air quite often, and it's not exactly, always the most crispest because her reactions aren't razor sharp, even though she's kind of fighting like they are really quick, really sharp. But they're not bad, and her timing is really good. And when she, gets her shots together, she can also switch it up and go to the, throw combinations and have success. Like I say, her time is good, her accuracy can be good as well. And so there's definitely problems in which Fundora might have to face, and it's definitely going to be, like I say, a difficult type of challenge and a different type of challenge to what Fundora perhaps has been used to, or at least in her last fight she was having to deal with a completely different type of fighter. So, like I say, it will be interesting to see how she can fare and how she can deal with it. I think that Fundora is going to be able to win via unanimous decision. Do I feel like she's going to be able to stop Badillo? No, because I think Badillo, like I say, her movement's good. I think Fundora is going to be able to perhaps slow her down in certain circumstances and also can be tactical. I think she'll be able to cut off the ring better than any of her previous opponents, Badillo's. And I think it's going to be difficult to be able to time Fundora because I don't think she's going to. If the fight is slow and if Badillo is just moving around a lot and not really, you know, going in for attacks and or is waiting to try and time Fundora, then Fundora could easily just get behind her jab or get behind her straight shots and then just not really get hit by Badillo unless Badillo is really willing to commit. And if she does that with just a singular shot, then she could definitely get caught. So unless we see a Badillo who's going to be throwing much more combinations in which, perhaps would be a good game plan for her, I don't think that she's going to be able to cause too much of a threat to Fundora, but like I say, I don't think Fundora is going to be able to get out of there either because Fundora, when she sits down on her shots, I think Badillo's, like I say, movement is going to be able to be too much where she can really time her with a good shot. She's not going to be straight in front of you like somebody like an Alanis was. So, that's my prediction. Moving on who she can kind of go to fight next. I mean, realistically, there's kind of a new option available, and probably the option in which is the most obvious and is a great option as a fight, and that is Yokasta Valle. When I say new option, Yokasta Valle was fighting down at minimum weight, and she was struggling to get challenges due to, of course, Estrada retiring. And, I've touched upon this many times in many different videos, but it is crazy to see just how much one fighter retiring has pretty much killed off a division. Now we've seen Yukasta Valle, like I say, go on to fight Esparza. She beat her and beat her well. She looked good in that fight, even though she was, physically the smaller fighter, even though, the size is different, wasn't really that big of a difference. But if she was to go and to fight Gabriela Fundora, that would be an excellent Golden Boy fight in which, two Golden Boy fighters facing off against each other, kind of a new gen versus old gen to an extent type of fight. And if Valle was to go on to beat something like a Fundora with the size difference and with the weight classes in which they both operated in, it would be a huge huge moment in her career, and it would be legendary realistically. I mean, not too many fighters would be able to achieve that with the sheer kind of size difference between the two of them. It would be immense, to be honest, and I would be so up for seeing that fight, and I think it would be an excellent main event type of fight. And so hopefully that would probably be next. If not, maybe something like a Zabatosna. She just beat Chloe Watson in an upset type fight, but I feel like that would be a big jump, and I just doubt that would happen, even though she is European champion. Or Lucas, that could happen. Fighter who's only had one defeat. She's on a good run. She's ranked highly. Possibly that could happen. I believe she's 14-1 and 14-1. So that, like I say, could possibly happen, but for the most part, a Valle fight would be an excellent fight. And just to touch upon another name that's on this card, of course, it's good to see Charles Conwell back fighting. He is taking a step down in an opponent facing Jorge Garcia. Nothing to discredit what Charles Conwell did in his last fight. It was a good win against a tough Southpaw Argentinian unbeaten 20-0 fighter, maybe one who hasn't been tested too much, but it was an impressive win. And of course, this is maybe a step down, but hopefully within time we'll see him get, he's been linked about with a few big fights, and hopefully one will kind of come his way, possibly just through purse bids in the near future for him. And yeah, it's good to see him on the card as well. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like video if you did, indeed like video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.